Okay, here we go.
Welcome to Trains Newswire video for April 15th. I'm Assistant Editor Brian Schmidt.
I'm Editor Jim Wrinn. Steve Sweeney is out and about today.
Well, what do we want to talk about today? We've got plenty of news this week.
We got plenty of news.
Kick it off with the Hunter Harrison waves the white flag and gives up
on the
merger.
So, it finally happened.
So for me to come back and have to do this video, okay, whatever. But to get to talk about that is just the icing on the cake.
So on a surprise factor of 1 to 10, how surprised were you that this collapsed?
That it collapsed, like a 3. I figured it would come sooner or later, but for this week, about a 7. Yeah. I figured they'd drag it out.
I figured they'd at least go through the NS shareholders meeting in May.
Yeah. Well, it's done. It's over. Woohoo! On to bigger, better things.
But do you think it's really over? I mean, that's always the question I hear, because, there was that waffling back and forth. Well, do we want to merge with NS? Do we want to merge with CSX? And because I remember after the first round, was with CSX, and then I know just talking to some of those folks over there, they said, well, we don't want to see this visited on our friends at NS any more than we want it on us, but we're afraid that it may come back to us again. And then there was a second round at CSX.
I think it's done because it's not. It's not a discussion of whether a merger with NS was a good idea. It's whether mergers at all were a good idea.
Yeah.
And that seems to be a resounding no.
But do you think now CP is open to be acquired by somebody else? I mean, do you think, obviously the other railroads out west, the BNSF and the UP, aren't going to sit around.
Yeah, I don't know that a railroad would want to acquire them, but maybe a different capital firm might.
I just want to use the headline, when the hunter becomes the hunted. Sorry, I couldn't resist. I've been waiting all week to use that. Yeah. So what other stories got your eye this week?
Well, we had CSX quarterly financials, and coal is down 31%. And coal traffic, and profits overall for the quarter were down 19%. So
tough time for them.
Well, for railroading in general, yeah. But when one of your most profitable commodities is down that much, your overall profits are obviously going to suffer. So we'll see what ace the railroads have up their sleeves to bounce back in the next couple quarters.
I know there's a lot of talk about cost cutting, especially at CSX. They've already shut down portions of the Clinchfield and some other key routes, but you can't save your way to prosperity. At some point, you have to really dig in there and go after more carload traffic or intermodal traffic.
And that's exactly what railroads need to be doing. But at the same time, you can't expect to go find more carload traffic on some of these lines that only have coal mines on them. So some cutting, I think, is inevitable. But having, you can't, like you said, you can't cut your way to prosperity.
I know we want to talk about road trips a little bit later, but yesterday I was driving through northwest Ohio. You're part of the world.
Yeah, I know.
And I saw the CSX intermodal terminal at North Baltimore, Ohio, and that's really impressive. I got to admit.
Yeah, it's. I was there most of the time while that was being constructed, and
that's pretty cool.
Go by every couple of weeks and see it. It was interesting to see this come out of literally out of the corn and the soybean fields that I had grown up with. And seeing the grade crossings I might zip off real quick to shoot a train at in the past are now taped over in concrete and part of this monstrosity.
And when the double stack trains shoot out of there's no catching up to them.
Once they get moving, yeah, there's a few slow switches, but once they get moving, they're gone.
I know. I tried a westbound out there, and it was pretty tough to get back to him there. So what else did you see? Did you see anything else that you picked up on?
One more story that piqued my interest this week is that Via Rail Canada is going to restrict access to the famed park cars, the boat tail observations that run on the Canadian. They're going to limit them to just prestige passengers, which is the super high-end, pay a buttload to ride the same train as everybody else. But now they get this access. That's quite a perk to get this exclusive access. Other sleeping car passengers can still use the parked car, but only during certain hours on certain evenings of the trip. You can't do it the first evening of the trip, but I think the second and the third, they're welcome in there for just after dinner time.
So there's going to be like a hall monitor in the parked cars?
I have to wonder.
How are they going to do that?
I have to wonder how they're going to do that. We'll just have to see what Via comes up with.
Dang, that's tough. That's tough. So you and I have both been traveling of late.
We have.
And we should talk a little bit about some of the stories that we're planning on doing from our travels. You were at the Short Line Association meeting.
I was at the Short Line show in National Harbor, which is near Washington, D.C. 1,500 people in attendance. I think there were a couple hundred vendors there. I did just posted today a video walking around talking to some of the vendors and seeing some of the products that they have: locomotive doors and seats, signal software, AEI readers, tie changing equipment. It was pretty cool to see all these suppliers bring in this equipment into the trade show hall.
Wow.
Nothing like InnoTrans.
That must have been pretty cool.
But still pretty neat.
Nice.
And then, of course, while I was there, I took a little run up to Philadelphia to see photograph
the derailment
scene, which was from the media perspective, it was quite chaotic because I was there in the afternoon and all the evening TV people were there getting set up to do their live remotes at 5 and 6 o'clock
Sure.
and all that. But otherwise, it was a rather somber scene as just dozens of safety vests were still combing over.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine.
And one other thing I did was work with CSX to have a little look at the Virginia Avenue project, the tunnel under Virginia Avenue in Washington, D.C. And we're going to work on some coverage for that later this year. Still have to talk with them a little bit to do a story.
So look for that in the print product.
Look for that, yeah.
Soon.
Probably Newswire sooner rather than later, and print maybe before the end of the year. We'll see.
Nice.
We'll see how big the story is, and if it's just news or a feature or what. So.
Nice. And I was out with the Norfolk and Western 611 for its trips out of Spencer, and also got around to a couple other steam locomotive projects, which was interesting for a special magazine we'll be doing in 2017. And then there was also a couple of short lines that I've been wanting to get into trains for a long time, the Blue Ridge Southern across Balsam Mountain, where they have a 4% grade, and then the Aberdeen, Carolina, and Western, which I thought Bob Menzies, who's the president of that railroad, put it great. He's all about unit trains now, and he says he's the short line of the future, which I thought was a great way to couch that railroad.
That's a headline written right there for you.
I love it. Love it whenever they come up with those. And then we also did a photo charter day with the 611 at Spencer. We were able to take it out and play with John and Barney Gramling's tank engine, the 126, and that was a lot of fun. And that leads me to a little commercial message. We've got a photo charter of our own from trains at Cass Scenic Railroad in West Virginia, June 3rd. Go to eventbrite.com and take a look on the search function for Trains Magazine photo charter. But that's a fun outing. We're going to limit that to 25 people, and saw some photographers and signed up a few this weekend. But still a little bit of room left on that one.
Sounds like a fun weekend.
So we've got a little short video clip about photo charters that you can watch right after this episode of Newswire. And I think that's everything I've got, unless you can think of something clever you want to say before the weekend.
Don't make me do
no pressure
on Friday.
No pressure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, from all of us at Trains, have a great weekend. And we will see you next week. Take care. Here it is.
We're a close-knit group at Trains Magazine.
Group.
You're about to watch a Trains Presents video. If you enjoy what you see, consider looking at some of our other full-length videos. Big Boy, On the Road to Restoration. Heavy Hauls. 611 in Steam. They are all available from our website, kalmbachhobbystore.com.
The photo special is one of the growing parts of the railfan hobby. Geared primarily at the photography side of railroading, these trips offer the opportunity to have control over the train and take a good-looking consist out to the best spots on the line at a time when the light is the most cooperative. Come with us as we give you an overview of the photo special scene as we look back on 2014. The charters in 2014 started in late January and early February, when Laro Productions staged a week of steam charters in Oregon and Nevada. Over the course of a week, photographers spent a day at the City of Prineville Railroad in Prineville, Oregon, then 2 days on the Sumter Valley Railroad near Baker City, Oregon. An off day let the photographers commute south to Carson City, Nevada, where 2 more days of photo freights were offered on the Virginia and Truckee Railroad. Several weeks after the Western charters, the East Coast got in on the action over President's Day weekend in February. Carl Franz put together a proposed weekend of charters in eastern Pennsylvania at the Strasburg Railroad, and the first ever charter at steam into history. While the Strasburg charter went off without a hitch, heavy snow and ice deposited a small forest of trees that steam into history, so that one was postponed until May to take advantage of the spring colors. The sun's lower in the sky during the spring and the fall, and that's when you find the majority of the photo charters. 2014 was the year of the West Coast. Lara Productions announced a week of steam charters in Washington and Oregon in mid-October. Participants would visit 4 different railroads in 6 days. Photographers will visit the Mount Rainier Scenic Railroad, the Chalachi Prairie Railroad, the Oregon Rail Heritage Center, and the Oregon Coast Scenic Railroad. The week of charters was timed to allow patrons to sign up for the Sumter Valley Railroad's Fall Photographers Weekend, after the conclusion of the main event. If you signed up for everything, that's 7 days of high-quality steam photography for the cost of 1 trip to the West Coast. Not surprisingly, there was a decent-sized European contingent that came over for the charters. The photo special dates back to the days of the steam era, when groups would offer a couple of photo run-bys as part of the excursion for photographers. The current photo charter scene in the United States really took off in the 1980s, and there are multiple events each year ranging from steam to diesel and even traction power. The idea is simple. Scout your locations in advance and do any brush cutting necessary. Then assemble your consist, gather the photographers, and proceed to the location where the lighting is best, giving the photographers several run-bys per location. Safety is number 1, and the train won't move until everyone is clear of the tracks. Once everyone has the shot, load up, move to the next location, and repeat. The photo charter theory is maximum run-bys, minimum mileage. The more time you spend on the train traveling between spots, the less time you're off the train taking photos. If things go well, you can expect 20 to 30 run-bys a day, and maybe 12 locations or so. Generally speaking, expect an early departure so you can be out on the line for first light. Most of the time, you get a long day, unloading and loading in the middle of nowhere, and some amount of walking to get to the desired photo location. It's a physical day, no doubt about it. For many people, it's a social occasion as much as anything. You can learn from the other photographers and try new things. When you know you're going to get another attempt in a few minutes, if you blow a shot, it's not a big deal. To get better, you have to be willing to make mistakes. So this is the world of photo charters. Most organizers will move around the country in search of new trips, so these charters may be a one-time event, or at least several years before another similar event is offered. Several railroads offer their own events also, so the scene is ever-changing. So if this sounds like your idea of a good time, sign up for one and try it out. It's a long, hard day, but you get a lot of very good photos that would otherwise be unattainable. And a little bit of that secret knowledge also. It's a lot of fun.